All right, good afternoon, boys and girls. Today we're going to be working on solving inequalities, and this covers section 6-1 and 6-2 in your textbook. It covers solving inequalities using multiplication as well as division and addition and subtraction. So as you can see here, this is 6-1 and 6-2, solving inequalities. And all inequalities are really equations that instead of an equal sign, they use greater than or equal than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. So we're going to be seeing a lot of these in the next couple sections. Figure out how to go to the next slide. There is a brain pop on our website if you'd like to watch that, if you think it would be helpful to you. It's algebra1.com. You can look at chapter 6, and I'll also put a link on the website to this video. It's Tim and Moby explaining inequalities. The trick with inequalities is that there's not really a trick. It's just like solving a typical equation here. Not much different. There's just a few interesting twists. If we were going to solve this equation here, t minus 45 equals 13, we would want to get the variable by itself. And in order to do that, we need to move this 45 to the other side of the equal sign. So we would add 45 to both sides. These two cancel out, so we're left with t equals 58. Okay, the only difference is that when we're dealing with inequalities such as this, we have, instead of an equal sign, a greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to sign instead. So we're going to solve this just like normal. Just like in the above equation, I'm going to add 45 to both sides. The only difference is that when we have our final equation, instead of an equal sign, you put your less than or equal to sign. So in the inequality version of this equation, our answer is that t is less than or equal to 58. And if we were to graph that on a number line, we would put a closed circle, and a closed circle is when you have an equal to. Open circle is just greater than or less than. Okay, so we have open circle right here at 58, and since t is less than or equal to, we can draw an arrow stating that t takes up everything that's less than or equal to 58. So again, here we can solve this problem. Your goal, just like always, is that you want to get the variable by itself. Here's our variable x. So in order to get x by itself, we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. These cancel out, so we're left with x is greater than 3. So to graph this inequality on your number line, you put an open circle because this is not equal to, it's less than, so you put an open circle on 3, and sorry, greater than. 3 is less than or equal to x, less than x. Apologize for that. So you put an open circle on 3, and since x is greater than 3, we're going to draw an arrow upwards. Okay, here's another one. This one involves more than one step, but it's not that difficult. Just think about using the skills you already know. We already know how to solve two-step equations. All we have to do here is get the variable by itself. In order to do that, we have to combine all of our variables on one side of our inequality sign right here. So we're going to take the p and move it over with the other p's. It's positive, so I'm going to subtract 5p from both sides. So I'm left with 7 is greater than or equal to 1p, or 7 is greater than or equal to p. To graph this on the number line, I find 7. And since it's equal to, I'm going to put a closed circle on 7. And 7 is greater than or equal to p, or p is less than or equal to 7. So p includes all these numbers that are less than or equal to 7. All right, we also need to learn how to translate these from our verbal sentences into numerical sentences and then solve them. This is the same as the stuff that we've done in the past, where we take a verbal sentence and convert it into an algebraic sentence, then solve. The only thing you have to watch out for is instead of saying something is something, meaning that it's equal to, we're going to have different words meaning greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. So here we have a number. A number, we can put the letter in for number. We know our number is decreased by 4. So a number decreased by 4, that means minus 4. We're subtracting 4 from our number, is less than. So this whole term here is less than 14. So our inequality states that n minus 4 is less than 14. If we want to solve that, we get the variable by itself by adding 4 to both sides, and you're left with n is less than 18. Here we have another inequality. 8 plus 4 times a number is greater than 5 times the number. So we know that this number and this number are going to be the same number. We're going to have 1 on each side. We know that we're going to have this information on this side of the equation is greater than the number over here. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in what I know. 8 plus 4 times a number. So here we have 4 times a number. We're adding that to 8. So 8 plus 4 times a number is greater than 5 times the number. So here we have it. 8 plus 4n is greater than 5n. If we want to solve, you just have to get your variables on one side of the equation. So if I subtract 4n from both sides, I end up with 8 is greater than n. And we'll do one more. The sum of a number and 17 is no less than. Now here we have some different vocabulary here. I have the word sum, so I know I'm going to be adding. I'm adding a number and 17 together, and I know that that's going to be no less than 26. That tells me it can be 26, so I know I'm going to have the equals in there as well, right? So if this portion right here can't be less than 6, that tells me that it's greater than or equal to. So n plus 17 is greater than or equal to 26. All right, there's only one trick that you have to know here, and that is this right here. Rule number 1. When multiplying or dividing by a negative number, you must flip the sign. And if you're writing this in your notes, which you should probably be keeping a little bit of notes while you're watching these videos, write this down and circle it because it's really important. Here's an example that would be great for your notes as well. We have negative 2x is greater than 10. Again, we're solving for the variable, so we want to get that variable by itself. When we're dividing by a negative number, so we're going to be dividing both sides by negative 2, you have to flip this sign. This one right here. It was greater than, so my final answer is going to be less than. That's all you have to do. You flip it, and then you solve like normal. So we're left with x is less than negative 5. So again, when you're multiplying or dividing by a negative number, flip the sign. So here's another example, similar concept. We have negative 14h is greater than 91. So I know I'm going to divide both sides by negative 14. That tells me that in my final answer I'm going to flip my sign. So I end up with h is less than 6.5 negative 6.5. Here's an example of multiplication. It's again not too tricky. We're not dealing with negatives here, so the sign is going to stay the same. We have greater than or equal to. Our final answer is going to be greater than or equal to. We just haven't done an example with multiplication yet. So here we have b divided by 7. We want the b to get by itself, so we have to multiply both sides of the equation by 7. So 25 times 7 is 175. So B is greater than or equal to 175. These inequalities just mean that whatever your variable is, B has to be greater than or equal to 175. So if I plug in anything, any number that's greater than 175 in for B, it's going to make a true statement. So for example, if I plug in, let's see, 179 divided by 7 is greater than or equal to 25. I know I'm going to end up with a true statement because my B can be anything that's greater than or equal to 175. All right, we'll do this one last problem as an example. This one I'm choosing because it has a fraction, it has multiplication, it has negatives, all the things we don't like but need to practice anyway. So we are going to get the P by itself. In order to get the P by itself, I need to divide both sides by -2/5. Now remember, when we divide or multiply by a negative number, we must flip the sign right here. It was less than. In our final answer, it's going to be greater than. So what I need to do is divide both sides by -2/5. Remember that when we're dividing fractions, we flip and multiply. So this is the same thing as -14 over 1 times 5 over -2. So this would give us, this would be equal to -70 divided by -2, which gives us a positive 35. So I know that P is greater than 35.